Good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us for tonight's Fireside Chat. I'm Mayor Rich Hill from the Village of Round Lake Beach, coming to you today from the Dunn Museum over in Libertyville. My guest tonight is Angelo Kyle. He's a Lake County board member and the chairman of the Lake County Forest Preserve. Welcome, Angelo. Nice to see you again.
Thank you, Mayor Hill.
Now, this is your second time being elected to the Lake County Board, isn't it? You were elected at one point years ago, and then they redistricted like they always tend to do.
Correct.
And you got in with your mentor.
Yes.
And you weren't going to run against her, so you stepped back, and then things changed again, and you ran for election again. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much. I see you've done your homework there.
Well, I read your bio, so yeah. Makes it easy. So a few questions for you. As president of the Forest Preserve, can you give us like a brief overview of your role in the district?
My role is primarily to oversee the overall mission, the goals and objectives of the Lake County Forest Preserve District. And they, of course, include land acquisition, acquiring some of the most prime opportunities of the purchase of land throughout Lake County. Also, restoration to restore some of the natural areas back to their original habitat, and also we provide recreational areas for members of the public who just want to jog and exercise and
Those are foreign words to me. I'm not sure what you're talking about. They're saying jog and exercise.
And those sort of things. Yes, that's what we do.
I know up at the corner of Rollins and 45, it was last year or before, they've done a lot of cleaning out in that area. All the underbrush is cleaned out, made it look so much nicer, and probably prevents a lot of fires by a little maintenance like that.
Yes, correct, exactly, yes.
In your role, so you're an elected county board member, and then how do you become chairman of the Forest Preserve District?
Well, once you win your election to the Lake County Board, you are automatically a member of the Board of Commissioners for the Lake County Forest Preserve. We are two separate governmental entities. However, the boards are the same individuals that are on the county board and the Forest Preserve. Right, so primarily the differences are our mission. You know, as I indicated, the Forest Preserve's mission, you know, restoring land, preserving, acquisition of land and the natural areas, preserving some of the most pristine natural habitat that we have here in Lake County is the Forest Preserves. Goal and objectives to protect those areas. Whereas on the county side, you know, the mission is to provide those county services, you know, for example, you know, the clerks, the treasurer's office, state's attorney's office, sheriff's department, juvenile detention, you know, those departments in those areas.
So that's probably pretty similar to what we do in the village, the county board, and then the Forest Preserve is more like our park district in respect, and that provide education for the natural things that are out there. And there's so much, Lake County's done such a great job over the last 20 years of expanding and purchasing land that soon will be gone.
Yes.
And I'm glad they took that step ahead and was able to secure that for our future generations. So it's been great.
Correct. Yes.
So how is the Forest Preserve funded? Is it through tax dollars? Are there programs? Are there grants? How do you get the funding for the whole Forest Preserve?
As a matter of fact, all of the above.
Oh.
Yes, we are funded by property tax dollars. Also, we do have some programming in which we're able to raise funds to subsidize that program. As well.
Like
yes,
at Independence Grove, those kind of programs, or other types that are more large in scale?
Some at Independence Grove and some at other preserves, you know, around the district, right, as well. So that's what we do.
And I'm sure you try to apply for state grants. Are there any federal grants also, or just state on those kind of programs?
We get some federal grants as well as state grants. As a matter of fact, the staff is phenomenal at being able to, first of all, sift out grant opportunities, you know, out of the thousands of grants that come at the federal level as well as state level. and the staff has been very successful at obtaining federal as well as state grants.
That's great.
Right.
Have you received any endowments from people that love the open space and just said, well, I'm going to give $1 million to this group, or?
Yes, as a matter of fact, our administrator, that's one of his favorite words, endowments. Ty Kovach over there. Yeah, he leads the charge with that and overseeing our foundation as well. And Ty has been phenomenal in acquiring endowments from very prestigious organizations and individuals as well. And he can tell you about those a little bit later.
I look forward to that.
Right.
Round Lake Beach is contiguous to both the Wildland Savannah and the Fourth Lake Forest Preserve areas. With the Forest Preserve having gone through an expansion and preservation of open space throughout the county, do you envision any expansion of these areas or changes in the areas or big programming changes? I know they're pretty much forest, the ones I've seen, the ones I've walked through, so I'm not sure what you can do so much, but any thoughts?
Well, as a matter of fact, the staff has just implemented a master plan for the Forest Preserve District. And it actually identifies those areas that will go through. I know Lakewood is a huge renovation is going to occur there as well. So we have a master plan that identifies what projects will occur at what preserves, and the cycle of when we will be able to get from one preserve to another.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I read that the Lakewood Forest Preserve has been around for so many years, but never really had a master plan for that facility, and it's huge. And I'm glad they're taking the time now to look at it and say, hey, this is what we have. What can we make it into, and what can we preserve the best for future generations? That's great to see. Whatever idea that was.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you want to tell me about the museum or about the Forest Preserve before we begin our tour?
Yes, our Dunn Museum is our crown jewel here at the Forest Preserve headquarters district here.
So we're over here in Libertyville. We're right off of Technology Way and
Winchester.
Yeah. Okay, right in the corner there, right? Okay, so it's pretty easy to get to, almost central in the county, which makes it nice for people. Now, do they do tours here? Do they have kids coming through for school bus fulls? And
Yes, we do. We do tours on a regular basis, depending upon the subject matter. We get schools coming here quite often, quite frequently. And we get tours from other organizations, community entities as well. So we get a lot of a variety of market areas, that actually utilize the Dunn Museum.
Hello, everyone. We're here right now with Ty Kovach. He's the Executive Director of the Lake County Forest Preserve District. Welcome, Ty.
Well, thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about your role and how long you've been with the Forest Preserve?
Absolutely. I've been here for just over 6 years now. As the Executive Director for the Forest Preserve, I really work with the board in alignment, making sure that the board and the staff are headed in the same direction, and work on our long-range strategic directions. And I think what's unique about the Forest Preserve is that we have a 100-year vision. And so we're thinking 100 years in advance. And we have 25-year strategic directions. And what's interesting is right now we happen to be working on revisiting our near-term goals, that 5 to 8 years, and where we should be focusing our resources. And the resources meaning our revenue, our staff talent, our expertise and enthusiasm, and addressing what the issues are in Lake County.
Well, that's wonderful. I feel like we look a long way out when we do a 20-year for our road projects, but 100 years, that takes some really big doing.
One of the objectives that we had was to look at our financials on a 10-year rolling. And so when we look at our financials, both in our operating budget and our capital budget, we're projecting out 10 years. And so if we see an issue, we have a long time to react to that. But one of the key strategies that we have going forward is that we also have a fundraising arm of the Forest Preserve, and that's the Preservation Foundation. Preservation Foundation is 11 years old, so that's the nonprofit wing. And we have a board resolution both from the district board and from the Preservation Foundation that we raise a $20 million endowment by 2029. This is really important for the Forest Preserve because what we've done in our 10-year capital budget is that we looked at our habitat restoration, our reforestation, and our tree planting and rolled them all into one. And we're actually going to budget against that in the future. So we've really got our work cut out for it because we need to raise a lot of money. And the reason that's important is because in our capital budget, we need seed dollars in order to get all those grant dollars to come into the county here. So as President Kyle said earlier, we get state grants, we get federal grants, but normally those require some seed money. And so we're trying to get ourselves positioned so that in perpetuity, we always have those seed dollars to keep on doing good habitat restoration work and reforestation and conservation work in Lake County.
That's wonderful to hear. And we're actually in the lobby of this is the headquarters then for the Forest Preserve?
Yep, this is the general offices for the Forest Preserve District. We have 66 forest preserves. We have our main operations building, and all that work that takes place to make sure that when you arrive at the Forest Preserve in the morning, the gate is open, the parking lot is ready for you, the trail is clean and everything, and the bathrooms are maintained the way they should be, is that we have a separate operations facility for that. Because we have 202 miles of trail, about 450 miles of boundary, and just short of 31,000 acres of district land that we manage for the residents of Lake County. And that's in a pretty urban setting. And so we want to make sure that it's very presentable and we meet the highest standards when people arrive in the morning to use the Forest Preserve.
Well, welcome back, everyone. We just entered the Dunn Museum. I'm here with Nan. Nan's going to be showing us around. Can you introduce yourself a little bit and say what you do here?
Absolutely. My name is Nan Buckard. I'm the Director of Education for the Forest Preserve. And the Dunn Museum is just one of the educational opportunities that we provide for the residents of Lake County. And I am delighted to be able to give you a little bit of a high-level tour of the museum.
I feel like a kid in grade school on a field trip. I'm looking forward to this. Can you just maybe start with your pet here and explain what your pet is?
So we have a Dryptosaurus here, and this is one of the dinosaurs that probably roamed Lake County when it was at that point in history. The reason why I say probably is because we've had glaciers that came through this area, and the glaciers scoured everything down to bedrock and left no fossil evidence of dinosaurs. But we know that the Dryptosaurus roamed both east and west of us, so likely they passed in this area as well. The wonderful thing about this Dryptosaurus is that it is a relative of the Tyrannosaurus. You'll recognize that it has that same large mouth and the big claws. The thing that makes this a wonderful model is it's the only one of its kind that exists. This is the only fleshed out, full-size model of a Dryptosaurus in the world.
Wow.
We had it specially made for us to be able to present that as our first entry into the museum with prehistory.
Gives you a lot of intrigue walking in outside.
The kids, I can't tell you how many selfies have been taken in front of this dinosaur. So we start the museum with the prehistoric part of Lake County, and this is actually the oldest thing that we have in the museum. And of course, people think about museums being filled with old stuff, and this is certainly part of it. And so this has fossil records of the animals that lived when Lake County was covered by ocean. So this rock is about 420 million years old, and it was unearthed in an excavation when they were doing some diggings, and they found this, and they brought in experts to be able to look. These are crinoids, this is a cephalopod, and so these were ancient sea creatures that have relatives that still exist today in the oceans. But this was in Lake County, and it's proof that we were covered by an ocean at one point. So in the Prehistoric Gallery, we have many items that help people to understand what types of animals and plants were part of the prehistory of Lake County that roam the area. And in each of the major galleries, we also have an area where kids can interact in a very physical way, and that's our dig pit, which is in the corner, where the kids can dig for the mastodon bones and teeth that are in there and be able to get a sense of what it might be like to be a paleontologist.
And are any of these actual, or are these all recreated?
The things that are available for touch Our replicas, the things that are protected in cases, are the real things that we want to
Okay.
make sure and protect.
That makes sense.
Yep.
That's
So
the large bones in
it's
the
a
case?
mastodon bone that was uncovered in Wadsworth.
Wow. Quite large.
It's quite large, quite large. So when you're done learning about the prehistory of Lake County, you can move into the First Peoples Gallery, which talks about the Native Americans that lived in Lake County. The most recent Native Americans that lived in Lake County were the Potawatomi Indians, and we have a replica of a Potawatomi wigwam here that people can see and get a sense of how the Potawatomi lived in Lake County. We worked really closely with current Potawatomi Native Americans that live in this region to make sure that we got it right. We wanted to recreate it in a way
Very
that
authentic.
really helped tell their story. And so it's a wonderful space that we've created. So we use this actually as an in-gallery classroom where the kids that are coming for our Native American programs come in and sit on the benches. The tapestries and the baskets and the other artifacts that are in here are recreations of what the Potawatomis used, but they're authentic recreations. We worked with a woman in Indiana who uses the actual fibers that were used in in the Native American times, and use the techniques that they used to be able to create the various weavings and things that are here.
Was this typical to have such a large structure like this?
Yes, in fact, this would be just a portion of it, that it was quite a large structure, and it wasn't something that they moved every day that we think about perhaps from the movies that really didn't tell us the right story. So
Really,
this
movies?
was, yeah.
Who would guess?
So this was a wigwam. So it's not a teepee, it's a wigwam. So it was a structure that was actually made of bark and big and little saplings, and it was constructed, and they would live in it for quite a while. And they actually had the fire in the center, and then would have a hole in the top that would be covered with a hide, so if it was raining, they could protect themselves from that. But today we have the starry sky. So we have some really wonderful artifacts that we have available for people to learn about. It's a wonderful collection.
Oh, yes.
And we're able to really showcase it, and we're really thrilled to be able to put it on display and make sure that the information that we have about these artifacts are really historically accurate, and that they help to portray the Native Americans in a light that they're very proud of. So from the Native American Gallery, we're going to the Early Settlement Gallery, and we have a replica of a one-room schoolhouse here. And the thing that I really love about this one-room schoolhouse is that we have in our collection a series of journals that were the histories of the schools in early Lake County. And in that history, there's a section that is told exactly what the one-room schoolhouse looked like. And we tried to recreate it as best we could. So there was the windows that was described, and the benches by the windows, and the stove, and where the teacher's desk was, etc. So that we wanted to recreate that to give that feel. And this is another one of our in-gallery classrooms where we have classrooms of kids come and learn about early settlers, specifically in Lake County, but in general how kids learned and what one-room schoolhouses were all about. So it's really intriguing to kids to think that they didn't have desks and they just sat there and had to repeat things, and the lessons were so different and things.
Yeah, education, like everything else, has come such a
Right.
long way.
Yeah, exactly. It keeps evolving.
Yes.
That's right. So we're really fortunate to be able to have some wonderful artifacts from the early settlement time as well that can help to tell the story, which in our heritage is largely agriculture, certainly in Lake County, but they needed to have all the support things too. So people made tools and people made furniture, etc. But farming was very broadly done in Lake County. From the early settlement, we go into our gallery that talks about the Civil War. And you may think the Civil War, that was fought in the South, which is absolutely right. However, during the Civil War, about 25% of the men of the right age in Lake County left. So imagine the impact on the people that were home taking care of those farms when most of those men in their age range that were going to be the most able-bodied and strongest are gone. So how does that affect back home? So this tells a story both here on the home front and about some of the soldiers that were from Lake County that went and fought in the Civil War. And so it was from both ends. And Illinois plays a really important role in the Civil War. They provided the second largest number of soldiers for the North.
Oh, I didn't
the state
realize
of
that.
New York was the first, provided the most soldiers. Illinois provided the second most soldiers. So even though there were no battles in Illinois, it was still, the soldiers from Illinois played a really important role. And one of the things that we have in our collections, you could spend a lot of time just looking at this. We have a series of letters that went back and forth between a sister and a brother. The brother was a soldier and the sister was at home, and these letters went back and forth telling about what was happening.
Wow.
And we have this in our collection. It was a whole series of letters. So this is one of the letters, and this is actually our transcription of it, so it's easier to read. But it really tells us what was happening. It's not conjecture, it's there. And this is what Lake County was going through during that time, which is a really exciting thing. That's the kind of items that we have in our archives that really help to capture what was going on with Lake County. Here we're walking through the Waukegan train station. We know when the men came back from the Civil War, many of them came by train, and they came to the Waukegan train station to return home. So as we've come to the Waukegan train station, we now are in our innovation and preservation galleries. And the innovation galleries are just all these wonderful things that Lake County is known for. From a wire factory to the Huff payloader factory.
Yes.
We have things from the Melody Farms. We talk about dairy farming. And Lake County is blessed with many, many lakes. And one of the things that Lake County provided for the whole area was ice. And this is a picture of the Armour Ice House in Round Lake.
Yes.
And if you read this, it said that it harvested as much as 100,000 tons of ice that was stored in the building. 100,000 tons.
That's a lot of ice.
That's a huge amount of ice. And that speaks to the purity of Round Lake at that time, that water was able to freeze clear and was able to be used for people in their homes and for manufacturing, etc.
Yeah, the Alpine Country Club is still there, and they have the rail spur coming out from the overhang for bringing the ice inside. So yeah, it has a lot of history there.
A lot of history there, and we've got some of it captured here and on display at the
Wonderful.
museum. So in the preservation part of this gallery, we talk about the preservation of the land in Lake County. There's a long history of people protecting really good natural spaces. And Illinois Beach is one of the areas that is featured, that this land that is now Illinois Beach State Park was really, it was a big struggle to get it preserved because it was supposed to be developed. And there was a group of people that really fought hard to make sure that it was preserved. And now it's a large state park, and it's one of the most visited parks in all of the state.
Is it really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so, and it's got the beautiful dune and swale system that just is not found anywhere else in Lake County. And we have our Lotus boat over here that talks about the tourism up in your area of the county and a little bit farther north with the lotus beds, and how people just flock to that area to be able to get out on the lakes and enjoy the lotus. And it was quite a tourism draw for many, many years to go out on the lotus beds.
Even brought Al Capone up that way, didn't
That's
it?
right. Yeah, that's another whole story, isn't it? And then we get to the area where we talk a little bit more about the Forest Preserve and how that interacts with the history of Lake County. But this is, I think, one of the most fascinating things that we have, and this is an enlargement of a map that was made in 1861 that talks very specifically about everything in Lake County. So here's Round Lake, and you can actually see who owned land around Round Lake in 1861. and you can actually see where the buildings were.
Wow.
You can see where roads were. This was a marshy area here. It was called Big Sag. So it's a really wonderful, wonderful map, and people that have their families that have lived in Lake County for a long time might be able to trace some of their heritage back to exactly where the land was at that time. This is a replica of an actual map that showed what Lake County was like.
Is this anywhere online digitally for people to pull up and look at?
That's a really good question, and I don't know the answer to that, but I know that we have the original map digitized, and so we do have the capability of doing that research from that.
Great.
So you can see where
That's really something.
It is an
And back in those
amazing
days, it was all
thing.
drawn by hand, wasn't it?
All drawn by hand and authenticated. You can see where Waukegan, where Waukegan, the town center was. Isn't that wonderful? And then we're to our final gallery, and this is our gallery where we have temporary exhibits, and right now we're hosting the exhibit called The Celebration of Souls, Day of the Dead in Southern Mexico, and it features photographs from the Oaxaca area in Mexico and how they celebrate the Day of the Dead. And we're approaching that time right now when we're filming this, and it's a time that I think many people know about but don't know very much about. Unless it's part of your heritage.
Heritage, yes.
So this is a really wonderful opportunity to learn a little bit more about it. We've recreated one of the altars that they have, the public spaces where they honor their dead, and recreated it with photographs. The staff and volunteers were encouraged to be able to provide photographs of their loved ones that they'd like to have remembered, and so we've recreated this. We have some hands-on components for kids, and it's just a really wonderful exhibit. So we have the temporary exhibits that will change out over time, and so there's always something new and coming forward with it. This is another really good selfie stop. So that's another traditional part of the Day of the Dead, the skeleton figures. And we have this wonderful mural too, which was actually done by a well-known artist from the Pilsen area, Robert Valdez. And he created this for us, and he put in some prominent Lake County figures in this. So for example, this is Jack Benny. Can you see the tilt of the head and the violin? And then we have Bess Bauer. Dawn is here, and she is the namesake for our museum as the first and only official Lake County historian, and really instrumental in helping to save Lake County's history and record it by collecting artifacts, by collecting people's stories and writing them down and preserving them, taking photographs, and just getting other people involved. And we actually have things that she collected and photographs that she took from the late 19th century and the earliest 20th century, talking about Lake County's history.
Wow.
And we have that as part of our collection. So it was really a wonderful thing for us to be able to name the museum after her. It was very special. And just recently, actually, we were surprised that a chapter of the DAR, the Daughters of the American Revolution, came to us and presented Bess posthumously with an award for being an important woman in history.
Wonderful. Oh,
So it was a
touching.
great surprise and well-deserved. And well-deserved. And as a result, because we're here and we're doing such a fine job, we're actually an accredited museum. And there's less than 3% of the museums in the entire country that are accredited, and we're among their group. So that means we're doing something really at the top of our game, and we're really proud of it. We're open 6 days a week. Mondays we aren't open, but we're open to the public 6 days a week, and we do school field trips. We do tours for other groups. They can arrange it with us. So we've got a lot going on, a lot of availability, and we do programs throughout all the forest preserves, both nature-related and history-related, and people can go on our website and be able to see that whole list of programs. And if I can give the website, I'd appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
It's www.lcfpd.org. Lake County Forest Preserve District.org.
Well, thank you for the tour, Nan.
thank you so
Appreciate it.
much.
There's one of our pins from
Thank
Romney
you
Beach.
so
I hope you win a
much. I
prize.
appreciate
And
it.
one last question.
Yes.
Do you have the number for the DJ? Looks like he really spins some good records.
He's been there a long time.